Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the January 2022 listening sessions for the California Truth and Healing Council. We have general listening sessions this week, with the first having taken place on Monday from 1 to 2:30, and today from 6 to 7:30. The council will hold a regular business meeting of the Governing Council on Friday at 1 p.m. We encourage you all to attend the meeting Friday to engage directly with the Governing Council members. My name is Christina Snyder, and I'm a member of the Dry Creek Rancheria Band of Pomo Indians and the Tribal Advisor for Governor Gavin Newsom. Before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge that I'm joining you from the ancestral homelands of the Patwin peoples. I'm now going to briefly walk through some of the logistics for tonight's session. First, we are recording this session, and it's available for public participation via Zoom and dial-in. The recording and summary notes will be available on the CTHC meeting page and blog when they're ready. For those interested in following the council, ongoing updates, including listening session recordings and the listening session summary documents, are available at the California Truth and Healing Council updates blog at catruthandhealing.com. You can also get updates for events by following the Governor's Office of the Tribal Advisor on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Additional details, including meeting dates, agendas, and background information, are available at tribalaffairs.ca.gov/CTHC. If you've not already done so, we'd appreciate if you could update your name to let us know who you are. And as we get into the discussion portion of today's session, we'd appreciate if those that are comfortable could go on camera. You can also intro yourself in the chat at any point in time and put any comments in the chat at any point in time if you're more comfortable sharing that way. We're going to start with brief introductions of those of you who have joined us and are comfortable doing so. And then, as always, we'll dive into a quick overview to get everyone up to speed on recent updates, and then we'll go into the listening and discussion portion of today's convening. If you would like to speak at any point, you can raise your hand and I'll call on you. Or, assuming things are orderly, you can just unmute your line to speak. You can also, as I mentioned, put any comments into the chat. You can also email written comments to info@catruthandhealing.com at your convenience. Now, before we begin, I'd like to remind participants that all of our council members, council staff, and many of you are members of the population in need of collective healing. So I ask that you engage with the council, our office, and each other with respect and with your whole heart in a healing mindset. Many of us doing this work are navigating systems that were not built for us to make change that was never contemplated. This in itself takes an enormous amount of patience and emotional integrity, and we're all doing our best to make strides in these spaces. So thank you again for joining us. And now I'm first going to turn to Councilmember Elliott Santos, if you'd like to introduce yourself to the group.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Angela Elliott Santos, and I'm the chairwoman of the Manzanita Band of the Kumeyaay Nation, and it's great to see you all here tonight. Thank you.
Yeah. And Loretta.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Loretta Miranda. I'm Serrano Cupeño, a descendant of the Morongo Band of Mission Indians. I serve as Chief Deputy Tribal Advisor and Special Counsel for the Governor's Office, and really looking forward to the discussion today. And we are fresh out of our youth conference, and so we might be operating a little slower tonight, but it's been a long day, but we're still happy to have you here and look forward to it.
Our voices are almost gone, but it's fine. And then we have Michael Park from our office on as well, and you can always chat him directly if you'd like to get in contact with us outside of this meeting as well. If anyone else would like to introduce yourself, please unmute your line at this time.
Hi, guys.
I saw Donna first.
Oh.
Okay.
She's cuter probably anyway.
Mishishuai kawi mei kauhakai, kanapai Donna Manzanare Soltero, in Kaama Rumshin, Amaturatai Oholone, and I am calling in from the Keech Gabrielino land. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert, you're up.
Hey, oh man, what a conference. That was pretty interesting. Anyway, yes, just off the youth conference. I'm Robert Levi. I'm kind of keeping everybody up on the educational portion of what AB 1554 is going through, and then also ethnic studies, and then anything else I can think of. Again, like I said earlier, I just got appointed as the elder in residence at Cal State San Bernardino. So getting kids to come down to Cal State San Bernardino to become teachers. Woo! So thank you guys. And it's great to have dinner with Christina. Oh, and Loretta.
Yes, tonight dinner is just snacks because we had not a lot of time. So anyone else would like to introduce themselves to the group? And if you don't feel like going on camera, you can also put anything in the chat. And also anything that you'd like to share with the group at this time before we get started, that's okay too.
I'll introduce myself. I'm super new. My name is Monique Mercurio. I am from the Ohlone Coastal Nestlan Nation. My wife is actually in the military, so we're stationed in Kansas right now. And I am the vice chair on the board of directors for the Indigenous Community Center here in Lawrence, Kansas. So I was invited to join and listen in. And this is the first time I've ever actually got to be involved with anything in my home state. So actually Oregon's my home state, but California is my home state. But I'm just really excited to, hear what you guys got going on and offer any kind of support or help that I can.
Very cool and welcome.
Thanks.
And I think you're the first person in this group that has joined us from out of state. And so we welcome California Native people who are everywhere. And so very happy to have you.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to introduce themselves to the group at this time?
I could go ahead. This is Louise Miranda Ramirez. I'm the tribal chairwoman for Ohlone Coastal and Esalen Nation. Monique is my cousin, and I thank her for joining in. I invited her to come in and listen and see what's happening here in our state. Thank you.
Thank you and welcome. Would anyone else like to introduce themselves at this time? Julian?
Yes, is that a glare back there? Is that too much glare?
You're good.
Okay, my name is Julian Medell. I'm from the Watucnam people in Eden Valley, which is a little south from Round Valley. And it's my first time being here, and so I'm excited. I've been praying for this since I've been a little kid. So I'm very excited about what's going on and the healing of our people across Turtle Island.
Thank you and welcome.
Thank you.
And I am not trying to pull away from this, but did want to share something that Robert may share. I've got a link for the Ernest Siva storytelling. Ken? You can go ahead and unmute your line.
Ken Woodrow, Tribal Chair of Waxahachie Indian Tribe. Glad to be here. Thank you.
Welcome back. Thanks for joining. Would anyone else like to introduce themselves to the group before we get started? Okay, and so as a very quick plug, which we'll talk about later, tomorrow is day 2 of the youth conference for the California Truth and Healing Council. So if any of you have children that you think would like, or children is probably not the right thing, but have youth in your families that would like to join that, we can share that information as well. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and give everybody the update for today. Is someone, I Okay.
We can see it. You're good.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, as always, we'll do an overview and updates to give you all some updates on where things are at. And if you have any thoughts throughout the updates, feel free to jump in, and also feel free to put anything in the chat. Loretta will be monitoring the chat and can read into our presentation as well. So as always, we like to start with the council meeting principles, which the governing council adopted to kind of frame all of our engagement in this space, understanding that the topics under consideration are sensitive and are very personal at times. And so we want to make sure that everybody is able to speak comfortably and engage with each other in a way where we're not inadvertently or intentionally hurting each other in this space. So in order to create a space where participants feel welcomed, respected, and able to speak comfortably, we'll uphold the following principles in all convenings of the council. We ask that all participants, which includes council members, authorized representatives, staff, moderators, and the public, work toward sharing in their stewardship. If you are a participant in a convening with the council, we ask that you engage in the work of the council and with others in an open and respectful way. Engage in behaviors that will make others feel welcome. Take care of your emotional, mental, spiritual, and physical well-being, and seek support as you need it. What does respectful engagement mean in this context? Affirm the person, but critique the ideas. Provide feedback constructively and with the intent for mutual growth and healing, and welcome feedback and challenges to your opinions. A lot of times in this space, we're going to be discussing things that, again, as I mentioned, feel personal, or they're part of people's personal stories or backgrounds. And so we want to make sure that both as we bring those things to this table, and also as we discuss those ideas, that we're not attacking people personally, but that we're looking critically at the ideas under discussion. Avoid contributing to assumptions or generalizations about tribes, tribal communities, or other groups. Do not ask individuals to speak for their perceived group. Speak only for yourself. Offer participants the benefit of the doubt. Spirited discussions are expected on these topics. See this as a sign that folks are engaged and care, and remember to be respectful as you speak, read, and listen. Honor confidentiality. Do not share others' experiences or information without permission. So in this context, we think about this also in terms of the stories that people bring and the experiences that they bring. And we want to be mindful that participants in this space are not looking at those stories in an extractive way, or inadvertently or intentionally taking those stories and either co-opting them or putting them in a context where they're not associated with the person. And so again, people will make it clear if it's okay to share their stories or the things that they bring to this table. And we just want to make sure that that those stories are not being shared outside of the context of that consent. Assume that you have relative privileges and both explicit and implicit biases. Know that others may or may not have had similar opportunities, experiences, and background as you. Recognize that their contributions are equally valuable. For those from dominant identity groups, refrain from contributions that prioritize dominant experiences over those who have been marginalized. And so part of this too is that at this table, experiences and stories are going to be shared that will feel like they're different degrees of severity. And we want to refrain judgment or comparing or competing about those kind of things, and understand that all of those stories are part of the collective Native experience. And within this process, all have value as well. Welcoming behavior. Make behavioral adjustments for virtual communication. If you wouldn't say something to someone's face, Refrain from saying it virtually by voice or text. This also kind of goes with the Zoom context. Your micro expressions that in person might not seem as communicative can be much more communicative when people can see your face up close. So yawning, looking away, raised eyebrows, eye rolls, all of those communicate something. So we just ask that you be respectful in this space and where possible, try to be respectful via Zoom as well. Know that use of strong language, capital letters, and exclamation marks can be easily misinterpreted online as unwelcome yelling or aggressive behavior. Remember that tone does not carry via text. People might not realize you're joking or being sarcastic. And leave space for others to engage and express comments and ideas if you have spoken recently by letting people finish their thoughts before adding new ones. Personal well-being. Take steps to ensure your physical comfort. Some examples in virtual meetings include shifting your sitting and standing position often, taking a purposeful deep breath regularly, raising your eyes to look beyond the screen or sitting back from the computer when possible to relieve eye strain, keeping a glass of water nearby and taking sips throughout sessions. Please consider physically leaving the computer during breaks. Participate as you are able to and adjust your presence as needed, whether that's turning off video or stepping away entirely. It's not expected that all participants will or should be present for the entirety of the council's work. We know and support that you will take time to eat, take care of your families and pets, but be aware that virtual convenings will be recorded and available to the public. Set up supportive resources such as food, water, ergonomics, and privacy while offloading responsibilities if possible in advance of convenings. Plan for breaks and stick to them. Seek support from your own networks or from provided resources as needed. And please alert us to any concerns as soon as possible by emailing info@catruthandhealing.com. Seek support. We recognize that participants bring their entire selves and histories with them to the council, and that topics explored during the course of this work may stimulate emotions and thoughts that would benefit from accompaniment and support. Although trauma responses can come from a variety of sources and contexts, the council understands that those who have experienced disparate treatment due to their Native identities may specifically want to seek assistance related to historical trauma and related issues discussed with the council. Council staff will be providing supportive resources for participants to be available for the duration of the council's work. So for today, we're going to have an overview of the council and its charge, go through the January council meeting agenda, go over some subcommittee updates, talk about regional meetings, and then open it up for listening and discussion. So what is the California Truth and Healing Council? The Truth and Healing Council is made up of representatives from California Native American tribes charged with bearing witness to, recording, examining existing documentation of, and receiving California Native American narratives to clarify the historical relationship between the state and California Native Americans in the spirit of truth and healing. The council is led and convened by the Governor's Tribal Advisor and is governed by a governing council of California Native American leaders and may include additional non-voting representatives from California Native American tribes, relevant state and local agencies, and other relevant non-governmental stakeholders. What does the council do? The council will submit a final written report of findings to the governor's office by 2025. That report should reflect a holistic understanding of the historical relationship between California Native Americans and the state. And the final report may also make recommendations aimed at reparation and restoration and consider how to prevent similar depredations or policies in the future. The council welcomes and encourages all available methods for public participation. Participants are encouraged to attend and observe all meetings of the council, with the exception of any closed session proceedings, submit written statements to the council, make oral statements and testimony to the council, participate in interactive dialogues, panel discussions, and informal meetings, organize and host affiliate events on issues relevant to the work of the council, and join the work of the subcommittees. If you're a tribe, we're seeking to begin initial consultation meetings. Please reach out to info.tribalaffairs@gov.ca.gov if your tribe is ready to meet. We're flexible about the method and mode of meetings, and meetings will be recorded and transcribed. These initial meetings will not be recorded and transcribed, but this is to clarify that when your tribe has kind of its official submission to the council, we are happy to record and transcribe that into the record. So these initial meetings tend to be about an hour via Zoom, and we just go through some of the questions that we have. And we also kind of figure out what your needs and priorities are so that we can plug that into consideration for some of the funding opportunities that are going to be available soon. Tribes can share as much or as little as they're comfortable with. Outside of tribal consultation, the Governing Council and the Tribal Advisor's Office are available to meet with Native American individuals, organizations, and groups at their request. The Council is currently seeking to conduct interviews for Native oral histories, particularly from elders, and can provide you with assistance in providing submissions. Please contact us at info@catruthandhealing.com, expressing your interest in submitting an oral history. And this is both oral histories that are already captured digitally, but also, so for example, some institutions have, wax cylinders or recordings of folks that are already passed. Some tribes have videos of elders, and we're also happy to assist you in capturing those oral histories as well, either by sending you what you need to be able to ask the right questions and how to capture that, or we can come and assist you in capturing those oral histories. One question came up in the last listening session about confidentiality and kind of protecting that type of intellectual property. And we're currently looking at kind of two paths right now, where submissions that are submitted with the understanding that those oral histories will be made fully public, except for anything that you'd want censored that could be covered under current state law. Those will be made public, or at least be publicly available upon request. And then we're looking at a second path where, if at the front end you would like to submit an oral history, but for personal reasons, for family reasons, for political reasons, you would like to basically keep it under some sort of non-disclosure or non-public archive, while still having it be submitted, or having a timeline on when it can be made public. We are considering that route as well, so that folks can submit basically depending on how they want that oral history to be incorporated in either way. And from our elders subcommittee, there are two kind of different thoughts here, where because it's the Truth and Healing Council, those submissions should be submitted with the intent that it will be made public, because we should be telling those stories. But we also understand that there are sometimes stories that we might not want our family members to know, or that we just might not want to be a part of a bigger public process, but still want to capture for the future. And so we're trying to think through both of those paths. So 2022 council meetings. The Governing Council is currently meeting on a monthly basis, which is virtual until further guidance is issued from the state. And that virtual meeting waiver extends through the end of March. So for the business meetings, at a minimum, the Governing Council will likely be meeting virtually to conduct general business and to set up the foundations for the council's work. Starting this year, the council will also meet for regular quarterly meetings and regional hearings, with the schedule forthcoming. So the dates are this Friday, January 28th at 1, and we're proposing the next date to be March 4th at 1 as well. So the agenda for this Friday is that we'll have a welcome do roll call to establish quorum, and then we'll have a traditional opening. As always, if you would like to help or if you'd like to offer a traditional opening, please let us know and we'll put you on the agenda. We'll then have council member updates, and then we'll go over the regular meeting schedule, locations, and topics. As I mentioned, at this time, there is still a lot of hesitancy about in-person meetings, at least through the end of March, because of the spread of the Omicron variant of COVID. And so we are trying to institute the regular meeting schedule just so that we can kind of fully realize the potential of this council, but we want to make sure that we're not putting people at risk unnecessarily. So we are likely going to try to have a first larger quarterly meeting in March, but it may be very heavily hybrid. So we'll keep the community posted on how that evolves. And that would be in Sacramento. So if you are living in Sacramento or you know of scholars in Sacramento that would be good to have, or tribal perspectives and viewpoints that would be good to have in this space, please let us know so that we can be reaching out to them at this time. We'll then have subcommittee updates and community input. And that will be for the education subcommittee, deliverables subcommittee, the elders subcommittee, the funding partnership subcommittee, the academic partnership subcommittee, the youth council subcommittee, and the status and identity subcommittee. We'll then go over the consultation request and the timeline for responses. And then we'll talk about the next meeting date and topics before we go into public comment. Typically, we'll start public comment right at 3 for matters not on the agenda, but we're trying to work in public comment into the subcommittee bucket. So if you have a comment specific to a subcommittee, we'd like you to show up for that subcommittee portion so that we can have you speak on that. And so public comment may get, for matters not on the agenda, may get pushed to a little bit after 3, depending on how many people come to comment on the other pieces. So over the next few months, staff are continuing to work with the governing council and subcommittees to finalize state and third-party contracts to do the work, provide training and tools for the council and public to participate in the process, developed a draft strategic planning document, and draft additional policies and procedures, build out subcommittee work and work product, and develop communications and web-based materials. As I mentioned, in 2022, the council will be in its quarterly meetings. Okay, I'm going to pause this for a minute and see if anyone has anything they'd like to share at this time or any reactions. And for those of you that have joined while we were giving the presentation, also feel free if you would like to introduce yourself to the group at this time. Okay, it sounds like everyone is okay to keep moving. So I am going to go back to the presentation and continue with updates. So the first update is from the Youth Council. And as I mentioned, the Youth Council subcommittee was created to provide an avenue for California Native youth to engage in this process that's driven by their own discussions, their own priorities, and how they want to see the future of California Indian country. So today and tomorrow we have the Imaginative Youth Conference series, and this one is focused on storytelling. So today we had breakout groups where we discussed different methods of storytelling, what it means to tell your story, what it means to be empowered to tell your own, dig into your own identity for that to be your story. And then tomorrow we'll have a panel discussion from the Numupoyu Poyo hiking group from Paiute country, who will be telling us about the journey, what it means to them, and how it's also been a storytelling platform that digs into traditions, but also has a lot of outcomes, movement, and storytelling associated with it. Loretta, do you have anything you'd like to add here?
I think so. Part of the purpose of having this conference is also to engage with the youth of the Native community and see how they would like to engage with the work of the Truth and Healing Council. And so our theme, of course, is storytelling, but really, I think the larger picture too is narrative change and giving the youth that power to tell their own story and their own narrative, and to incorporate that where we can into the work of the council. And so we have day 2 tomorrow, and we're really looking forward to that. And I want to see if Councilmember Elliott Santos, if you have anything else that you want to add about the youth conference. And again, we're fresh off the youth conference, so if we are moving a little slower, it's because we just had that whole conference and presentation.
Yes, I'm all talked out too. So, but I think just I want to encourage as many youth as possible to get on and share with us what they want to see, and like you said, form what they want to see with their own ideas instead of us kind of telling them what to do. So I think the first day went well, and I was excited to hear from the young people that were in my group, and I'm looking forward to tomorrow's session.
Thank you. And we got a question in the chat about what ages are the youth that are involved with the conference and council. We have the whole gambit of ages. And we've heard that from the community. We've asked, what is a youth? And I think we've heard many different age ranges. And so this conference, we didn't put parameters on that because we want to leave it for the youth to define what actually a youth is. And so we don't have any age range on that.
Yeah, so for this conference, we had youth as young as, I want to say, even like 8, and as old as like college age. And what we found kind of interesting that we're going to think about in terms of structuring ongoing engagement is that the younger kids seem to be more open to talking about things and sharing, as the older kids kind of led and engaged. And so we're thinking about a structure where we have, kids who are like in an older age range, kind of being the role models and the leaders who are driving the conversations, but are also including those younger kids so that we can kind of create that mechanism for younger kids to look up to older California Native kids. And then we've also considered potentially forming kind of a statewide aunties and uncles network of people who are not quite elders, but who are a network of California Native people who want the best for California Native youth, and to help kind of inform and guide that youth council. So we're thinking of a lot of ideas right now, but it's been really amazing to see some of the already some of the neat things that these kids are doing. So we encourage all Native youth to come to this council, share kind of who they are. We've heard from kids who feel like they're disconnected from their tribal communities, but want to be connected with, other California Native youth and other California Native people. And so this is an outlet that they would be receptive to, is to virtually even connect with other people throughout the state, because they don't live around anybody from their tribe. Or we've heard from youth who are nervous about even engaging with their tribe because they've never lived there and they don't know how to even start that process. So really what we're hoping to do is build kind of a bigger network and community of California Native youth that don't feel so islanded, and can help kind of plug into this collective California Native identity while they're thinking about who they are and what their place is as well. And hopefully we'll encourage them to be active in their tribal communities to the extent that they're not already. Okay. And these are recorded, so some of the conference will be able to be posted as well. So we'll send people that link once it's ready. And I forgot to mention, sorry, because we've been on live stream for a while, but this is meant to be a part of a series of convenings. And so we're hoping to have, you know, kind of bigger workshopping convenings at a couple points in the year, but then also potentially based on some of the feedback we got today, having even kind of monthly check-ins of all of the California Native youth to just kind of think about what they're thinking about, work on what they think needs to be worked on, and then also make sure that they're plugging into the council's work as well. So this is the inaugural youth conference, and it kicks off a Truth in Healing Council Native Youth series to be held over the next year to learn, reflect, and develop a future roadmap for Native youth by Native youth across California. The theme is storytelling for this one, and we've reached out to Native artists and storytellers to help build tools for meaningful intergenerational relationship exchange within our communities to preserve culture, ensure health, and build a vision for a bright future. And so part of this too is that we're hoping to create tools and projects where we have our youth really leaning on their community and leaning into their families, their tribal communities, to think through those intergenerational stories, and to also close some of the gaps that we're seeing where you know, elders in the community may not be connecting as well with the youth, and vice versa, and want to just make sure that we're kind of healing those spaces so that we can all be stronger together. The Elders Subcommittee, as I mentioned, the Elders Subcommittee is seeking to have submission of oral histories from elders throughout the state. And as I mentioned, they are intent on hearing kind of the unvarnished story of what it has meant to be a California Native person through different generations. So this can be both recollections of our elders who are much closer to when the state and all of the genocidal actions occurred, but also the recollections of elders who grew up under this kind of, you know, land dispossession, lack of rights, lack of infrastructure for California Native people as a result of all of this. And so they're very interested in hearing kind of what that whole story looks like. And so again, please let us know if you know of anyone who might be interested, or if you have any of those that you'd like to submit for this process. We're hoping to include in a final product and in a virtual product little pieces of that, so that we're also telling a story of and humanizing the California Native experience. So would love to work with folks on that. And then they're also looking for additional regional representatives for their Elders Subcommittee. So if you have anybody that you recommend for that space, it is similar to the Youth Committee, but different in that it's more of an advisory body, sort of, for the whole group, as many of our elders are for us. And so a lot of what they discuss is, you know, overarching themes that should be addressed, and then also anything that the council is thinking about doing. We know that our elders have probably tried at some point before, so we want to hear about lessons learned and kind of think through the best path forward. Funding partnerships. So as I mentioned, there is a good chunk of funding that will be available for community grants that would probably go through tribes to distribute, but also nonprofits to the extent that there are Native people who are not members of tribes. And that the Funding Partnership Subcommittee is currently meeting to think through how to allocate that funding, what the rubric should be, what the priorities should be, So that should have an announcement probably in the next few months. Should I add anything else there, Loretta?
I think here, so it's really important for community feedback is we really want to hear about what your needs are in order to enable you to participate in Truth and Healing Council work. So whether that be, childcare or a tribe could have or request recording equipment to collect those testimonies. So just things of that nature, like things that you can think of that would help you be able to participate. We'd really be wanting to hear about that in regards to the potential community grant funds.
Great. And as we go through, if folks have questions, feel free to put them in the chat or to just chime in. So the Status and Identity Subcommittee, one thing we're still looking for here is someone to help moderate this discussion. And really what we're looking for is someone who is not so enmeshed in the community that they bring that with them. So like, for example, depending on the tribe you're from in California, that comes with a perspective about what your views might be for certain things like enrollment or like recognition. And so we're hoping to have someone who understands those dynamics, but who will not have any perceived bias so that those discussions can happen kind of free of, well, in a place of trust, but also someone or a group that can work in this space, help people process all of the needs, and then also create meaningful recommendations for people to feel like they can work towards being whole. And so, again, this is really tricky and going to be really difficult work. And so we want to make sure that we have the right person or firm or people. And to make sure that this is something that, can really produce actionable results. Anything else on that, Loretta?
Nope, you covered it.
Anything else from anybody? Okay. The Education Subcommittee. This group is still in the process, I think, of thinking how it's going to solicit additional members, but their unofficial member is Robert, who's on right now. If you have any updates on education that you'd like to share at this time.
Oh, certainly. Fresh off the press, coming from Assemblymember Ramos, he introduced the bill AB 1703, which seeks to encourage local schools to partner with tribes located in their region to develop accurate, high-quality curriculum and classroom materials. He just got off 26 minutes ago, AB 1703. So again, we're looking for, well, I might as well say what the hell, more input from local tribes in developing curriculum. Again, the Chumash is a very good example. Northern California is a Shasta. Up in Shasta County, there's one that they're using their local tribes to input more into the local curriculum. And again, AB 1554, more California Indian history into the social studies history curriculum. That's steadily progressing, slowly but surely. And then also the ethnic studies, which again, we're having, the Liberated Ethnic Studies Consortium is having a meeting, I think on Monday, about developing more curriculum, especially for the American Indian portion of ethnic studies. And again, we just have to be real careful about who we get to do professional development. California Teachers Association and the American Indian Alaska Native Caucus will do professional development, I believe, for free because they're part of the union. Whoever's part of the union, I mean, will come down there and do it, do some PD for those individuals. I guess also out at CSUSB, as I was thinking about the youth conference, having a meeting at different junior colleges or four-year universities would be awesome. I know, like tentatively, like Mitzi and Marisol did, the Indian recruiters. I would tentatively volunteer CSUSB to hold a youth conference. Also down here in Southern California, UCR. I'm sure Jolie Prodfit at San Marcos would love to hold one too. You know, I'm an alumni of San Diego State University, so I can also ask them if they would host a youth conference. But again, to get the youth, you know, maybe just off the reservation, and then the urban youth to meet the people from the reservation at an academic setting so they can look at a four-year institution, I think would highly be beneficial. So again, those, so far from what we're looking at in terms of in education, coming from the California Department of Education and the California Teachers Association, and then Assembly Member Ramos's committee, you know, we're progressing as we go along.
Thank you, really appreciate it. And I really love that idea. And even it being like, because some of the kids express continuity and wanting to have monthly check-ins, even having like a monthly meeting at different four-year colleges throughout the state with connectivity so that folks can join hybrid would be pretty cool.
Yeah, or with Title VI programs too, for like elementary through junior high. You know, I would imagine they would need parental supervision. But again, if we hold them at Title VI programs, I know the one down here in San Bernardino meets every Thursday, and it's, you know, mostly get together with the family and doing some craft work and having a little history about different Indian tribes. That's what the coordinator, Sindra Weber, tries to do. And again, I don't see why, you know, I mean, they get kids who are from, you know, like I said, the gamut from K through 12 to come down. And then also, you know, the one girl was talking about mentors, and I had mentioned the teachers, if they were California or American Indian, you know, what a difference that would make. But now also she's talking about mentors, and they put in the chat about older students doing that. So again, with the Title VI program, you know, you got to have a university or a junior college, and you can get the Indian students from there. I know CSUSB would be happy to do that. In fact, I would push that on campus to have them come down and meet the kids and talk to the kids about, you know, where they're coming from, if it's a reservation or an urban setting, or, you know, wherever, to get them more mentored into, you know, there are other people out there who are just like them. And I think that was one of the messages too, is we're very diverse, and we haven't met that diversity yet. But as close as we learned from what those kids were talking about, you know, we're on the right track. You know, like I say, with that comic book lesson plan I'm trying to put together with the little girl who's talking about her anime book, you know, that'd be something that she would probably just gravitate to. And, you know, as she grows older, ask her for submissions to put across, and then, you know, maybe even getting them out there through Truth and Healing or Title VI or some other program. So it's a good start. It was a good start. I really enjoyed it.
I love that. And I like the idea too of even bringing in like either alumni or like local native, like aunties and uncles from the area, so that you also create those like established mentorship chains, so that as people are applying for college, as people are applying for other things, they now also have like that kind of professional connection as well.
Oh yeah, it was a good start. I enjoyed it. Look forward to tomorrow.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you, Robert. And then, as always, there are a couple other updates in this space. They've been posted, I think, on Illuminative, the Smithsonian NMAI online resource for Sovereignty 101, and a couple of other things. UCLA and like I think 3 other partner UCs are developing an open source kind of overview of issues facing Indian country. I think they're sort of like related to California, but it looks like it's more like a pan-Indian type of thing. But repatriation is one of the topics that this council may want to plug into as well, with the UC needing to do quite a bit of work on just generally its work with California Indian Country. And then I believe California Indian Nations College is still looking for adjunct or associate professor or teachers, but then also some in-house folks. And as we talked about a little bit in the last listening session, Claremont is also offering a full ride for Native people who are wanting to become teachers. So just putting that out there so that folks are aware of those resources as well.
Christina, real quick, I just bumped into something. The Udall Foundation is having a Native Congressional Internship application for Native American congressional internships. The applications are due January 31st, figure that, 2022. So I guess you contact, the Udall Foundation for anybody who wants to go and spend some fun times in Washington, DC. I think that's it. That's the one I just came across it while I was scanning what I have here. That's it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And for that opportunity, highly recommend it. If anybody wants to talk about it at all, I did not go through that program, but I have friends that did and also have spent some time working in DC and other contexts. So happy to chat with folks if anybody wants some assistance in thinking about that opportunity. Okay. The subcommittee for deliverables. So this committee, it was created to make sure that there are some actionable outcomes to this process. And so they're going to be basically, right now we're in the process of kind of sorting through recommendations that we get from the public, recommendations that come from internal, from the governing council, but then also staff. And then also looking at other mechanisms that have had recommendations in context similar to this process. And basically going through and thinking through whether certain recommendations make sense within the context of this initiative, or whether they don't quite make sense in the context of this initiative. And then those pieces and those actionable items, looks like someone might be off mute. Oh, sorry. Those items that are actionable will go into something similar to what the Canadian Truth and Reconciliation Commission did, where they have action items that came out of that process. And it was something like 99 calls to action, and there are specific recommendations for legal changes, policy changes, things that should be developed, conversations that should be had, agencies that should be doing things. And so that's what this subcommittee is going to be doing, is both vetting recommendations that come in, but then also producing recommendations. I'm gonna just, okay. Academic partnerships. This subcommittee is thinking through its overarching goal, but is really going to be partnering with academic institutions to make sure that, you know, where there are pieces of work that can get done in those spaces, or partners that we can have. So for example, CSUSB, now Cal Poly Humboldt, which is very exciting, and I think happened today or is happening tomorrow, that it has the change to a Cal Poly. But different places where we have concentrations of California Native academics or work that's been done, or that there's holdings there that should be treated differently. That's what this subcommittee is working on right now. Is there anything to add, Loretta?
No, you covered it.
Great. So then beginning in March, the council will tentatively begin its regular quarterly meeting schedule. Those meetings will take place in different regions throughout the state, starting with Sacramento, and will take place over 2 days. Day one of each meeting will be dedicated to a talking and healing circle, with day two being a hearing style meeting. And we're kind of open to day one being either a Thursday or a Saturday. We're sort of leaning towards Thursday, given that people can get funding to go with their tribes, but also don't want to create a structure where people aren't going to show up. And then programming around meetings will be done with the assistance of regional planning help. So if you're interested in helping plan the Sacramento meeting or a meeting in your region, please just let us know and we can have those conversations. And really what we're doing is the talking circle will have the assistance of wellness support. So people who are informed in both traditional and Western healing, so different kinds of modes of healing, but then also behavioral health folks for mental health and emotional health supports to help kind of really just share within a community that all has this through line of being descended from people that were actively hunted by state-funded militias and campaigns, so that, you know, where folks are comfortable sharing their experiences, whatever that feels like within this context, we'll have folks there to help kind of process, facilitate, and make sure that we're not kind of opening that all up without giving you tools to help heal. Really what we're trying to do is help break cycles of intergenerational trauma and address kind of the remnants of this awful historical trauma that continue to impact our families and communities today. And then day 2 with the hearing, it will be people who are recommended by the local tribal communities to speak to the stories of that area. We will also, in each of the places, be asking for basically side events or side activities that folks might be able to do. So for example, in Sacramento, there's different tribes in the area, there are different trails, there are different resources that people can do their own kind of self-reflection and self-study on. And so we'll be compiling those resources as well for each of the regional meetings. We'll also have regional hearings throughout the state, and this is to make sure that we're not being under-inclusive in that regional representation. And so if your tribe, organization, or institution would like to host a regional hearing, or you have a topic you'd like to cover in a regional or topical hearing. So for example, if you'd like to cover a specific incidents at a specific site, like in Northern California, in Lake County, there might be something that everybody wants to talk about because it's such a significant event, or you know, up in the Modoc area, that event in history. So if you'd like to do that, please contact us and we can work on planning that. And again, as I mentioned, for the near term, we are leaning towards very heavy hybrid because we don't want to incentivize people to come to meetings if it's going to put them and staff and council members at risk. And we will continue hybrid throughout the duration, but hopefully with, in the long term, more in person with the option of virtual participation as well. So I'm going to stop sharing at this time and see if anyone has any questions or thoughts they'd like to share with the group. And if not, we can go through our list of questions as well. Monique?
I know you guys were talking about different colleges and stuff like that, speaking with the youth, or, you know, looking for representatives from colleges. Here in Lawrence, I have Haskell Indian Nations University, and I have a lot of connections that might be interested in talking to some of your youth if that's something you guys are in for. I don't know if you're trying to do in-state only, but I just thought I'd offer that.
I love that. I think our only limitation is we want to have this be a California Native initiative. So if they're California Native folks, we would love to have them.
Okay, I actually might know a couple, so I can reach out and double check and make sure.
Awesome. We would love that.
Cool.
Additional comments, questions, ideas, thoughts? Ken?
Yes, I've been on a lot of Zoom meetings at the state level, different departments. My understanding, there's funding available for us California Indians tribes, such as the virus money and such. How does one get it? How do we find out what's available to us at this moment instead of waiting 5 years? Because there's money set aside for us, but we don't know where to go. So I'm trying to figure out, there's virus money, there's housing money, there's infrastructure money. Do those only go to 638 contract? Are they available for California tribes? Thank you.
Thank you. So it'll depend on the funding source, because if it's a federal funding source, then that'll be only available to federally recognized tribes, and that'll go probably either straight from the feds or a pass through with the state, and that'll be clear from those funding NOFAs. There's also sorry, I just want to make sure I don't forget a couple of things. The state has a website called grants.ca.gov. Let me just double check this so that I'm not giving you the wrong address.
And Michael put it in the chat.
Perfect.
Thank you.
And on that site, you can say, I am a tribal government or a nonprofit or whatever, however you're set up. And you can basically search and it'll show you all of the opportunities that are available. So for example, I just put in tribal government and 75 opportunities have shown up, and they'll basically say like, if there's a set aside, if there's not, and it's open to everybody and that kind of thing. And so that's, at least for state funding, a way that you can navigate that piece. Sorry, my phone just started playing music like a ghost.
Yeah, because my understanding is that we are kind of designated as a California Indian tribe. There's federal money for the recognized tribes, and there's money associated for us. I know they're trying to clear up the definition of what we are in California. So, and you being the tribal advisor, you're the highest in that position. And I've been asking, and everybody goes, well, go into every agency to find out. So there's no contact list was available for us. Thank you.
So each agency does things differently, and a lot of times it's dependent on the authorizing statutes. So some statutes will say this is available to all of the tribes on the NAHC contact list, which would be inclusive of non-federally recognized tribes. Other funding sources are less clear, so it's not clear how and whether agencies are authorized to, how they're authorized to do things. Most state agencies with funding availabilities should be able to, in one way or another, it might not be the preferred way of the tribe, be able to offer funding, but it's really just going to depend on each agency.
Okay, thank you. I know they're trying to clear up the definition because each agency has their own handbook of what we are outside the federal process. I think it's a good move, just like the Farm Bureau has money for allotment land, descendants. So there's money available. It's just trying to find out where the resources are and the contacts. But thank you. And please put it on the web, on the chat so I can copy it down. Thank you.
Great. I think Michael has put it there. So thank you. One thing that you just reminded me that I mentioned in the last listening session, let me pull it up real quick in case other folks, or if anyone on here knows of anybody. The California Victim Compensation Board is administering a program that is currently open. And it is for people who have been, who have lived in state, have lived in state-run hospitals, homes, and institutions through 1979 and were sterilized, leaving them unable to have biological children, or people who were in the custody of a state prison or other correctional facility after 1979 and were forcibly or involuntarily sterilized. And there's some qualifications there. So it can even be that, the person was never fully informed, or that the procedure happened within 24 hours of that their being informed. So they didn't have time to process what that information meant. And so I'm going to put the link for that too, in case any of you know folks, because I know that there are some people in, oh, perfect, Loretta, thank you. So there are some people in California who will definitely be eligible. And the way that they are allocating that funding is basically whoever submits and qualifies by the deadline it will all be divided up equally. So folks who might qualify should get those in, because you'll get something. The more folks that put their eligibility in, the less that amount is, but it is a substantial amount of funding, and obviously does not make up for anything that has happened as a result, but is something that is available. And so folks should go get that if they might be eligible. I also want to go through, before we go through questions, we did some updates to the Truth in Healing Council landing page on the Tribal Affairs site. And so I want to go over that so everybody knows where everything is, because we've streamlined it a bit. And we do ask that folks be patient while we continue to work out some bugs, because there's some formatting stuff that we need to fix. But let me go ahead and share my screen. That looking okay, Loretta?
Yeah, we can see it.
Cool. So again, this is at tribalaffairs.ca.gov/CTHC. So same landing page, but we did reformat it a bit so that it's more intuitive. We also posted the youth conference on the landing page so that folks can see that as well. And we should actually do that for all of the meetings. So I'll go ahead and do that for Friday. So again, this is the landing page, and you can learn more at FAQs. And this is just kind of a quick overview. Meetings has been changed a bit. And so what we've done is added listening sessions to the meetings page so that people can find that easily. I also linked out to where the participation information is on our blog. Understanding that might change, but it is always the same link. And so, for example, 2022 meetings, we've got January 28th and an agenda, and we've got a YouTube link. We will also be updating this with all of the minutes from past meetings, which have been voted on. And we've got tentative dates for our February listening sessions as well. I'm going to scroll down a bit so that I can show you some of the search feature. Here are all of our 2021 meetings. And then the listening sessions, we update all of the reports. So I'll just click one so people can see it. And so that'll link out to the listening session report. And then you can also view the recordings here as well, so that you don't have to kind of sort through things. This has a search function too. So if I search, for example, November, it'll show right up. And so you can click through to see all of them, or you can search for specific months if you're looking for them. The summaries will be up. And again, as I mentioned, we'll be adding the minutes for all of the council meetings as well. We now also have a subcommittees page. And so this has all of the contact information, and these emails are live right now. So if you wanted to contact one of the subcommittees, you could. And this eventually will link out to pages for each of the subcommittees, depending on what they want on those pages as well. So if you're following along or you become a member of that subcommittee, you could potentially go to that page. Community, we've updated a bit, but this may turn into a media page. So that may change in the next week. So just so everybody is aware, and that's where we would post where the Truth and Healing Council has been in the news, where there are related articles like the recent transfer of certain lands to tribal organizations and tribes, and things that are just kind of associated with this type of work and aligned with the type of actions that this council would recommend. And then also a press kit would go here, which is in development right now. Resources is pretty similar. These are the publications of the actual council. So I may actually update this to say council publications. And then these are third-party publications that are related. So we've got that early California laws and policies related to California Indians, which was done by the California State Library. And then we've got the congressional report on the Advisory Council on California Indian Policy, which looked at the federal space regarding California Native people. We're going to continue to update this with some primary materials. So if there are pieces that you think are missing from here, please let us know and we'll update it. We've also got documents on similar truth and reconciliation resources and mechanisms. So these are things that are both guides on this kind of process, but then also other processes that did similar, though not identical work. And then we also link out to the digital atlas, which is very neat if folks are not aware of it. And I'm just going to go through it real quick just because it's kind of cool. So you can look at trade relations between different tribes. You can look at what the treaty lands were, and that's these green pieces. And so you can look at whose land it's near, and it will link out to a tribe. This is trade relations between different tribes, which is very helpful. You can also look at bounty lands that were awarded, and you kind of need to zoom in to see that. But you can see these little blue dots are where bounty lands were awarded to different militia. And then you can look at different events that are pulled from the primary sources used in the book, An American Genocide. And so there are some primary sources that are linked out to. So here, for example, this is a bounty land, and you can link to the original document. So a lot of what gets incorporated into this work will likely be linked into this atlas as well. So we can see exactly what this is, first primary source material. And the idea too is to incorporate a lot of these primary sources are non-native primary sources because they're the primary sources from American Genocide, which was basically looking at what the state and the feds put out there as a result of these campaigns, and what that narrative is. And what this process would do is add in the primary sources from the tribal perspective, including transcriptions of oral histories, recordings of oral histories, and the like. And then there's one more piece of the website. And then we have updates, links directly to the blog. So if you want to subscribe, you can go to updates or just go straight to catruthandhealing.com and you can subscribe here. And so this has all of our updates, and as we post them, you get a notification as well. So I'm going to stop sharing. Is there anything I didn't cover there, Loretta?
No, I think you did a pretty thorough job of the website. And yeah, we really wanted to make it more user-friendly and intuitive. And so thank you for your patience with the website. There are some formatting stuff that Christina mentioned that she's going to work on, and let us know how it can better serve, or if you think it's awesome, that would be great feedback to hear as well.
Even if you don't think it's awesome, sometimes it's nice to say that. But one thing we are going to incorporate are some more visuals too, not jarring visuals, but just things so that people can kind of see a bit more of a story here. And so if folks have anything that they'd like to submit, like even pictures of their elders, we would be happy to put that in certain places. We have a comment about a short film called A Long Line of Ladies, and it would be great to incorporate. It's about a Karuk girl and her journey with her flower dance. This is really interesting. Thank you for sharing. We'd love to check that out. Additional comments, questions, concerns? Okay. I am then going to share some of the questions we have put out. And feel free to just think about it for a bit, or to react in real time, or to add comments to the chat. And these questions will go up on the website soon as well. So you can also react through a form. So a lot of these questions we're asking are basically to help set up that funding mechanism, but it's also for us to kind of think through how to organize next steps. So what are the current needs and priorities of your community engaging with this work? Please list all and describe all financial, ideological, and conceptual, or emotional and spiritual needs and priorities. And so some of what we've heard in this space is, it's simply, we have a box of material that needs to be digitized, and that's something that would be helpful to us. Sometimes it's that, we want to be able to submit something, but we need to be able to record, and so that's helpful for us. And would your community like to be able to attend meetings? If so, does your community have existing resources to be able to travel to in-person meetings? And if COVID measures are still in place, does your community have the ability to join via the internet? If not, what resources does your community need to be able to do so? And in this space, we're broadly defining community as whatever you'd like to define it as. These questions, similar questions, have gone out to tribes. So this is really, if your community is really a community of urban California Native people, that's fine as well. If it's your family that you're speaking for, or just yourself as an individual, we are open to hearing all of it. How would you or your community like to submit information, historical records, or documentation to the council? And this is really, number one, would you like to submit anything? And then if you are submitting, how would you like to do it? Would you like to do it digitally? Would you like us to come in person? Is there a preferred method? Do you or your community have existing digitized records, or will you need assistance in gathering records for this initiative? And part of this question is, are you in a place that's high risk for climate related fire, flooding, similar types of things? And this is something we're sensitive to, because if there's only one copy of an important document, it's going to, number one, there's some funding resources available for climate proofing that type of information, but also that's going to take a higher priority if there's, if we're going to assist with digitization. We want to make sure that we're helping where it's really, really critical. And if you need assistance, what kind of assistance are you seeking? So research, digitization, recording, etc. And if you have documents in your care, what's the status of the historical records or documents in your care? Does your community have an elders program? If so, would the elders program like to participate in a pilot program to gather first-person narratives via audio or video recording? So for example, if you live in an urban area or not an urban area, but you have kind of a California Native Elder program, and they're interested, or they're interested in kind of standing something up where we would tell them how to capture these kinds of narratives, we are happy to work with them. The council has established a youth council subcommittee and is looking to create a youth council. Does your community have a tribal youth program? If so, would the youth program be interested in partnering with the council? And is your community engaged in similar work or have existing materials that could be made available to the council and Native community or the public? And so that's, for example, there's certain tribes that have worked with the local county or the local city to tell the story of their people, or to build a curriculum, or to elevate the Native narrative in a place like a park where something significant has happened. If you've done that, or you have interpretive trails that have done something similar, we would be happy to incorporate that as well. And then what do you hope the council will achieve throughout this process, and what result will be most useful for tribal governments and California Native Americans? What does success look like for this council, and what deliverables should the council be aiming for? So this will be posted. We'll send it out to our listserv as well, so that you can all consider these questions. And then, where are the areas and locations of historical significance in your region, and where would you recommend the council hold a quarterly meeting? Are there organizations or institutions in your region that you recommend the council engage with in planning a regional meeting? So for example, should we engage with the different boarding schools? Should we engage with the different institutions? Are there trusted messengers? Would you or your community like to assist with planning meetings or hearings in your region? Are there particular instances in the history of Native Americans in your region that should be included in the record for completeness? Are there experts, elders, or community members that can assist the council in representing the story of your region or community that the council should ask for ongoing assistance from? If so, please send us your recommendations. And this is, we're trying to build out an advisory council of issue area experts to help assist the governing council in thinking through things that are require kind of that unique lens. Okay. And then I think there was something in the chat earlier too. Connecting with Cal Poly Humboldt. That's great. We will do that. And we're about at time. Are there any final thoughts or comments from the group? Then Councilmember Elliott Santos, we have held on to you for many hours, so we really appreciate it. And if you have any final thoughts, feel free to give us some closing. Okay, great. Then we will say good night to everybody. Thank you all for your ongoing participation, and feel free to reach out to us if you even want to have a side conversation. We're happy to chat with you, and really appreciate your ongoing participation and support. So take care.
Have a good night, everyone.